Let me introduce you to our first session. This one is a fireside chat on the economics of innovation. And to steer forward this conversation, allow me to invite the session host, Rahul Chowdhary, partner Deloitte. And he shall engage in a conversation with Ruchir Kalra, Head of Insight, Asia Pacific Oracle. So, welcome, gentlemen. And Rahul, with that, I hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Deepthi. Good afternoon to all the participants. I take the pleasure of introducing Ruchir Kalra. First of all, I'm delighted to be here talking about how the business value of cloud for accelerating innovation curve across organizations will be unlocked. So, Ruchir, second generation cloud is being built to enable enterprises to apply the principles of modern cloud economics. These would in turn raise organizations' capability to unlock full business value potential of cloud across the enterprise.
Sure.
So, what are these principles of modern cloud economics, this ICT 2.0, and how are they different from the traditionally followed principles?
Excellent questions. Thank you very much, by the way. And thank you to ET for having me on the session. Very quickly, cloud is not new. It's reaching a certain maturity point. What we have realized over the last couple of years, and as we have developed the second generation of cloud, is there are three things the way it has been maturing. One, technology has matured. So every time there is democratization and the cost reduction of compute and storage cost, which the customers and our consumers get to enjoy. The second thing that's changed is the business maturity. Organizations have learned and matured in the utilization of cloud. So you are now a lot more aware of the shortcomings of the first generation cloud and therefore are looking for improvements. And from a business maturity perspective, new fields of studies have evolved, such as FinOps, such as technology business management, which are helping businesses get a better view of where they are spending on the cloud and what benefits are they accruing from that. And the third thing that has matured is the operations of the cloud. IT or technology community is a lot more well-versed in how to manage the operational side of cloud in terms of people, in terms of processes, in terms of cybersecurity, in terms of data residency. All of those three maturity mechanism or the axes has enabled the vendors as well as our consumers or customers to be able to define the new paradigm of how cloud needs to be viewed, how cloud needs to be consumed, and how cloud needs to be costed. And therefore, the second generation principles have been based on the three maturity axes, if you will.
Right. So what I hear from you, the appetite for cloud adoption in enterprises is at an inflection point. Adopting cloud is no longer an option, but it's a mandate. And adopting cloud is mission critical domains is the next logical step for enterprises to gain competitiveness in the new normal. Now, this is proven to be challenging for most enterprises. They know it, they have to do it. But I think most of the organizations, most of the enterprises are getting stuck. So what are the major challenges, pitfalls, roadblocks in what you see in the industry? Why are the clients getting stuck?
Perfect. Let me start with an artifact first. Can we bring up the slide, please? Thank you. If you notice the slide, 60% of the workloads, even though organizations have been on a cloud journey for at least 5, if not 10 years, 60% of the workloads or applications, if you will, have still remained on premise. And majority of these workloads are business critical or mission critical in nature. The challenge is why such workloads have remained on premise and haven't moved to cloud, or organizations haven't succeeded in moving them to cloud, are around 4 features. One is commercial challenges. I am used to consuming technology from an on-premise perspective, something from a tangibility perspective, where I buy kit and I buy infrastructure, and then I consume it in a certain manner. On cloud, that's not the case because you're no longer buying technology stack, or you're not buying equipment, you're buying timeshare or a time slice. So that is different. So people don't get used to the commercial cost of the thing. So I'm worried about that. The second thing is more architectural in nature. A lot of these applications are not fit to be away from the underlying infrastructure stack. because of latency requirements, which could be there, which because of certain amount of chattiness, because there's a lot of messaging that happens between. So the cost of running that application on the cloud is extremely high. The third could be regulatory or security requirements. If I'm in a highly regulated industry, such as financial services, I may have higher regulatory compliances to go through to be able to put them on cloud, to put my applications on cloud. One of the things could be data sovereignty, where data cannot leave the shores of a country. The second one could be data security. I have heavy penalties to pay if my consumer data gets exposed in a data breach of certain scenarios, so people don't feel comfortable putting the customer data on the cloud. So finally, if I look at those three specs, right, you realize that the putting mission critical workloads or applications on cloud comes down to the risk appetite of the executive within the organization. So it's up to my risk appetite to be able to say what applications can go to cloud within my organization. It's not about technology, it's about my risk appetite. And those are the challenges that keep the organizations away from moving to cloud. Thank you.
Sure. So, Ruchir, you spoke about two themes. You spoke about commercial challenges, you spoke about regulatory challenges. So let's first talk about the commercial challenges, the high-speed internet infrastructure, the quest for IT resource optimization, and the escalating operation and maintenance cost of keeping the digital resources up are leading to a cost-effective and technologically efficient business solution. But still, having said that, the perception of like when we talk about cloud to clients is that cloud computing is still a cost center instead of viewing this as a utility or value addition. So what are your views on that? Like how do we change this outlook?
So perfect, very good question. Let me start by showing another artifact. Can we bring up this slide again, please? If you see the chart on the left, and let me annotate this with my mouse pointer, the top dotted line is the curve of the cost of IT consumption today, which is what organizations have been seeing, especially with digital transformation going on, especially with data consumption increasing, exacerbated by what COVID has done. So the cost of IT is slightly going up all the while, even though we try our best to reduce that cost all the while, right? When you move from owning equipment to owning time or buying time, the subscription cost, you start to see the yellow curve at the bottom where your costs start to go slightly down for the time being, but because the data consumption and overall consumption continues to increase, your curve starts to move up again. The way we are looking at cloud now, and which is where the unit economics comes into the picture, is that what is it that the learning curve effect can do along with the subscription shift? So learning curve effect is when I do something more, I get better at it, which has come from manufacturing, if you will. You're able to manufacture something at a lower cost because you just get better at it. And that's where economies of scale come into the picture. So if you include subscription shift with the learning curve, you start to see the unit cost of IT reducing slightly, and ever so will, even as you start to increase the consumption on cloud and you start going towards more on the right, where the business value outcome is looking at. Going by that principle, and we've defined the 11 principles of cloud based on exactly that to be able to help you. So if people are interested in reading through, I'll walk through that as well. But going through that principle, cloud is becoming very, very synonymous with two very specific things when it comes to how do you see value in it. One is around pace, so the speed of evolution and the speed of execution, where you are now making cloud capable, or you are using cloud to be capable enough for democratizing the innovation. More people within an organization can now innovate by using the inbuilt capabilities on cloud. I'll give you an example. Built-in capabilities such as low code or no code consumption of reports or analytics. How many more people are able to generate those reports now without having to utilize the help from really IT geniuses, as every organizations typically have it, or people like me who are more business oriented, but I'm mostly self-sufficient now because I can use these capabilities to be able to do more. The second thing that cloud has actually done is the speed of go-to-market. Because you're not spending plenty of time just creating environments where you need to use to create some technology code or a product, you are able to spin them up and down as you need, and very, very quickly, the go-to-market and the pace of innovation has increased significantly. So those are the things that are driving cloud demand. And Deepti, as Deepti mentioned very well, It's the economics of innovation. Can I innovate fast? And can I innovate in a cost-effective manner? And that's where cloud comes into its being.
So, Richard, you're saying digital transformation and cloud economics are the modern approach to maximize ROIs for the clients, for the enterprises.
I'm from the technology industry, so I will always say that. But if I look at it from the other way, I would say it's the yin and yang. Cloud enables digital transformation, and digital transformation in turn drives cloud consumption. Digital transformation is driving data requirements and data consumption. Cloud enables you to be able to do a lot more of that very quickly. So you can scale very quickly and you can scale cost efficiently. And therefore they keep driving each other hand in hand.
Right. Interesting. So the other thing, Ruchir, you spoke about was around security. And if I talk about security and the whole concept of data residency, so one of the major concerns for most organizations when moving to a new ICT is around security. So how do cloud technologies answer these concerns especially for highly sensitive industries such as financial services, or when you're dealing with, let's say, telecom industry, which is so critical for the country, or let's say even banking institutions or PSUs or government institutes? Or how should they look at it?
Excellent question. Three things come to my mind immediately. One is because the cloud vendors, such as Oracle, host hundreds, if not thousands of customers in any country or any region, the requirement for them to be extremely security conscious and complying to every local region's security or domiciliary or sovereignty requirements is so stringent. Typically, organizations tend to spend a lot more compared to individual customers would from their IT perspective. So I would argue that the generation 2 clouds are more secure than most enterprise-owned security domains. But that's about a subjective way of looking at where does security lie. The second part to that whole conversation is around regulatory. And regulation is evolving specifically in telco and financial services state. Few years back, it was not very common for banks to be, or insurance organizations to be able to think about cloud and utilizing cloud within their organization. Now, majority of them are able to do so very easily, specifically when it does not concern customer data. Even then, there are now technologies available that help them utilize the cloud by masking the customer data and be able to do this in a cost-effective manner. So that's the regulatory part, and that's evolving. And each vendor and customers, our banks, our telcos, are working with the regulators to help them understand how cloud is evolved, and therefore more and more of that appetite is increasing. Then the third part comes into the picture is, where should I be relying on a single cloud provider? What happens in a time of a contingency as a financial services player, as a telco player, as a public sector entity? And to that, I would say majority of the organizations that we talk about, especially if you look at globally the large organizations, 90% of them are multi-cloud environments. And some of that is by requirement that I need different products and different cloud consumption patterns, or some of them are by design that I would stay multi-cloud by architecture so that tomorrow, if I hit contingency with one of the providers, I can easily switch over to another provider very, very quickly with minimal impact to the overall business.
Right. So if I move now from financial services to, let's talk about e-commerce companies, and I think this is not news to anyone. Like the number of unicorns and sunicorns we had in India in the last 12 months, and like what is predicted to happen in the next 12 months, it's absolutely exciting. So when we talk about cloud economics, do you only focus on established organizations, or do you think even these organizations can embrace this technology? Is it out of, I think the question is it out of their reach?
No, it's not out of the reach. First of all, I applaud all the unicorns out of the country. I'm sitting afar, but I feel the joy of watching India grow and the organizations prosper, which is fantastic. Cloud economics is a volume conversation. The more I consume, the more impact do I see from a cost perspective, from an operational perspective, from governance perspective. Born in cloud organizations, which are the startups today, which do not have the on-premise legacy, or nor should they, because they don't really need to have that. They can start small. The economics of utilization is already built into the billing or the commercial capabilities of all the Generation 2 clouds. So whether you realize it or not, certain principles and levers you are already utilizing. However, the optimization and the volumetric effect of how well you are utilizing cloud and how you optimize along the way is seen mostly for large established organizations, because they are moving really large chunk of their applications all together onto cloud. So the sudden impact of the utilization shift and the sudden impact of the subscription shift looks really, really large upfront. So for an organization that's a startup and that's already on cloud, that growth and the optimization looks gradual because you're already practicing it. For a large established organization with legacy technology on premise, and all of them have it, when you move to cloud en masse or in a critical mass, you see that impact much larger. However, both can apply it.
So you would say that the right starting point for them is now.
Yes, if you are, like I said, whether you realize it or not, you're already using some of those principles and levers, because that's built into the vendor technology, the way we price, the way we provide cloud capabilities, the way we look at technology. If I bring up the screen again, my slide, if you look at the cloud principles on the right-hand side of the page, we look at them from 4 aspects: technology, operations, commercial, and value management. So whether I'm an established company or whether I'm a startup, some of these things are already built into, if you're using Oracle Cloud, for example, some of these things are already built into your overall capability. Technology already gives you the flexibility to be able to move things around and change the shapes of your workload. And by shape, I mean it's a combination of compute and storage. For people, I don't want to get too technical, but you are able to infinitely look at what compute do I need, what storage do I need, and I combine that combination to be able to run my application. So that is already built in. There are scenarios where tomorrow, for example, I would have used an external firewall to secure my overall IT technology. That technology capability is already built into the cloud today. So I don't need separate technology solution for that. If yesterday I was building a dashboard to be able to view where my IT resources are and how well they are running, that capability is already built into the cloud now. So you don't need to start having a separate application for that. If you look at what Apple has done from an iPhone perspective, there were software and apps that you used to download separately on your phone. Those things slowly go away. Remember the weather app that you would download on your phone to be able to check weather? You don't do that anymore, do you? Because that's already built into the operating system. Think of it from that perspective. So whether you are a startup or whether you are an established organization, you are already using these principles. You get better at it as your overall utilization matures. And then you start looking at things from a value management perspective, which is how is cloud adding value to my organization? Sorry, long-winded answer, but I hope I got the point across.
So Ruchir, I think you absolutely said it right. I think the best designs are the designs which no one notices. The best technologies are the technologies which works in the back end without people noticing.
Correct.
So now let me ask about wish list of most of the CXOs. The business leaderships are focusing a lot on using data for predictive decision making and reporting tomorrow. So how do you think modern cloud technology can accelerate or help them in achieving this?
Good question. Two things. I don't think cloud is a tool. It's an enabler. And therefore, I don't think cloud is specifically doing things different for what the businesses want to do from a process perspective. What cloud is doing is, as a tool, it's helping you do 2 things. You are able to do you are able to scale better, and therefore the cost per transaction is much, much lower. So because I'm able to do things in a very cost-effective manner, and I can use my technology resources in a very cost-effective manner, I can do a lot more of that in the same cost paradigm. So I'm able to not only look at my finance data now, I can combine that with a much larger chunk of my operational data, which is what you call operationalizing finance. So finance department can make much more real-time, much more business front decisions, because they are now able to look at a lot of that data together in a more cost-effective manner. And the second part, again, which goes back to my previous point about the democratization of innovation, is that at the back office, from a finance perspective, people are able to generate the analytical reports or make sense of that data a lot better all by themselves without having to wait few weeks, few months from the IT. IT does everything possible to be able to make our business lives easier, but their resources are finite, more so in the times of COVID. So the more self-service you can generate within an organization with these technology solutions, the better it is. So the cloud is enabling finance's role in those two areas. One, it's a little bit more business centric. And second, you're able to do a lot more within the cost paradigm.
So for all the CFOs, here is the answer from Ruchir. This is the right investment to make. Please go for it. The last question, Ruchir, I'll have for you, and I wish like we had more time and we could have continued this conversation. This is something to talk about. Like, let's talk about COVID. So there were a lot of things, a lot of reports, surveys that the whole period after the Lehman crisis, 2008 crisis, was the time like which attracted the highest amount of innovation. And last 18 months, I think we would have seen crazy amount of innovation. So yes. What has COVID done for ICT 2.0?
It's matured it. And it has fast-tracked it. Things that we thought would see 4 or 5 years down, we saw it within the 18-month period. COVID had two levels of impact from an enterprise perspective. Some really saw demand shoot up that their business was not prepared for. Think of retail, think of healthcare, think of online shopping, think of all the fintech solutions. You fast forwarded them 5 years into the future within the 18-month period. On the other hand, COVID impacted a lot of organizations where suddenly they were sitting either idle because they did not have the resources to be able to execute. Think manufacturing, supply chain, shipping. We are already still seeing the impact of all of that. Or suddenly the demand disappeared because consumers disappeared. Right? So two things have happened. That has exacerbated the overall need for a solution which has less cost rigidity built in. And therefore, automatically, everybody is trying to look at now technology from a paradigm of, I want to be able to consume technology based on the changing demand that I'm seeing on a real-time basis. I don't want to buy 10 servers or 100 servers and keep them because my demand is only 20 today. Or I don't want to have only 10 servers in my data center to run my applications when I suddenly have a demand for 100, because to get from 10 to 100 will take me a long time because my procurement practices and everything else. So COVID has done two things. One, it has created this abnormality in terms of consumption. Certain industries are seeing a spike, certain industries are seeing the demand go down. And therefore, at some point in time, you will see that level set happen maybe next year, maybe the year after. So organizations will have to find that new normal again. However, one thing that has gone away entirely is the idea that we want to be able to own things because it just doesn't scale up or down really well. So for us to be able to subscribe or mimic my requirements to my consumer's demand much more closely, which is what I think Lean did a couple of years back when I did just-in-time inventory management. When I need it, I should have it. Why should I store? Cloud is the same thing. It's basically just-in-time infrastructure. When I need it, I will have it. And the cloud vendors and the mature cloud technology is actually providing that capability to most organizations today.
Great. Thank you so much for your time, Ruchir. This was a pleasure. I'm sure all the audience would have found this very insightful.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity.
Great, Ruchir. Have a great weekend. And with that, I will hand it over.
Yes, please. Sorry, I just wanted to take a minute. If I can just bring up my slide, I wanted to have an offer for our listeners this afternoon. We are happy to provide a capability of Oracle Modern Cloud Economics Discovery workshops. I will leave this slide on for a little bit or a moment for you to be able to read. If you are interested in coming and talking to me and my team on how we can help you understand this better, how can we help you adopt this better from a cloud perspective, and how can we reduce or de-risk your overall future-looking journey to cloud, please do reach out to us. Thank you very much. And thank you, Rahul.
Thank you, Ruchir. I'm sure the audience would have found this session very insightful. So with that, I would hand it over back to Deepti. Deepti, over to you.
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for that very engaging chat. Indeed, as you mentioned, our delegates must have found it very, very useful. Ladies and gentlemen, please do visit our partner booths. You can do so by clicking on the partners tab or also through the experience zone. There is a lot of material that you can read about our partners, download their brochures, watch their videos, also chat with their representative or book an appointment. So make sure that you do that. And coming up is what promises to be a power-packed and interesting panel discussion with industry stalwarts. So do join us.